everybody. Today we're taking a look at the new edition of Frontier Scum from Free League Studios. Now, it is an acid Western role-playing game. What does that mean? It is honestly a term I still don't understand. I've even looked it up. I've read the definition, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. There weren't really many good examples of what an acid Western was when I was doing my research on it. But I think it is a really cool sounding title. And now, one thing I like but also dislike immediately off of the book is this. So, typically when we get a hardcover book, it has a normal looking spine. Now, this is what spines normally look like before you actually get the full cover on there. And so, I like it because, it does look, very Western. You weren't going to have that high level of production in that kind of era for something like this. And so, having it look like this, look like it's not the same material or quality as a normal hardcover RPG book would be, I think is great for the overall theme, the immersion of it. But, in terms of my collection on the shelf, I really don't like that because, this is going to be on its side like this, and I want to be able to read the name of the book on there, and unfortunately it's not there. Now, it is essentially an outlaw-centric gameplay. Kind of think of along the lines of something like Red Dead Redemption, where you are playing the outlaws and basically wanted criminals trying to survive, make a name for yourselves, and the world itself is meant to be very brutal and kind of a collapsing frontier that you kind of are struggling to survive day to day, looking for food, looking for water, looking for safe places, avoiding the law, and when you go into town, avoiding drawing attention to yourselves while also doing the outlaw things that all those outlaws want to do. Specifically, focuses on gunfights, the duels at dawn and things like that. So definitely a lot of cool options. Now, with the way the cover is, it does allow for the pages to open and stay open a lot easier than a traditionally bound book does. But it definitely looks great appearance-wise. I mean, this is all rules for you, but it looks like old-time ads in an old newspaper, and really it's using that aesthetic to tell you how to play the game at the same time. Now, it is, from what I've read, it is based loosely on the Morkborg system, which does make a lot of sense based on the size, so it will fit with the Morkborg books on the shelf. So it's going to be sitting right alongside those once we're done with it. The overall system itself is meant to be very simple. It is more GM-focused mechanics, so that way the players are more focused on just their overall story, and then the DM just telling them what to roll and when. There are random generation systems that help you with character creation, developing your traits, different crimes, backgrounds, encounters, and some of those encounters rely very heavily on those random tables, making, even if you're playing the same exact storyline that you did before, it can make it, and because of those tables, it can make it very chaotic and unique each time. So that way, you're not playing the same exact story every single time. The included scenario, Escape the Oregon Rail, is basically a ready-to-run experience involving a horrific prison train powered by a living engine. Which, that sounds like some Lovecraft eldritch chaos that you'd have to deal with basically on this prison train that you're trying to escape from. And honestly, I was not expecting that when I first read through the book and was getting ready to play it. Now, the idea, and I think this is where the term comes from for the acid western, is that it's not just a western role-playing game. It leans into kind of the weird escalations and tonal shifts, which is kind of meant to be kind of like an alternate history, alternate dimension type stuff involving the Wild West at the same time. Now, the random tables themselves, I think the structure to them is very well done, and does make for resolving outcomes and things like that a lot more interesting, just because it's not so just straightforward, because things can change at any moment. And I don't remember if I mentioned this already or not, but I love the old newspaper aesthetic for the rule book itself. I think they did a fantastic job doing that. Whosever idea for that it was absolutely brilliant. And the randomness itself can be a little too chaotic for some people. I found it really kept us on our toes and made the actual decisions a lot more, the results would be a lot more dire depending on how things went. And we go through and while doing it definitely makes it a lot of unknown. So like, even though like I had given the book a full read before we played it, because of those tables, I didn't even know what was going to happen to my players. It wasn't just the predefined encounters that they're dealing with. It was just some full-on just nuttiness that happened a few times that we weren't expecting. Overall, it has some strong aesthetic hooks. The skulls, trains, swamp horror, just general outlaw, iconography, tons of examples for like different characters, random tables, and some of the weird results. And overall, we had a lot of fun with this. Now, normally I'm not a big Western fan. Now, I did really enjoy the movie Django Unchained, but most Western movies just don't really do it for me. The only Western type thing that I really enjoyed probably in the last 10 to 20 years, besides that movie, was the Red Dead Redemption games. And beyond that, the Wild West, Frontier, and stuff like that was never something I was very interested in. I'm more of a fantasy and sci-fi story type person, and so by mixing this with a little bit of kind of Lovecraft imagery definitely makes for a much more interesting story overall that I was not expecting. We had a great time with this, and highly recommend picking this up. The game is available now for the new edition, and I think the team did a fantastic job, so well worth picking up. Thank you guys, as always, for watching, and thank you to Free League for sharing the game with us. We really appreciate it, all of you, and hope we'll see you next time. Thank you.